In shocking news, men are men and women are women. At least now, according to the International Olympic Committee, as it was announced 2 days ago that they are now going to put a ban on trans women from competing in all international Olympic games. But this only comes as a surprise. This ruling is only a big deal to a small section of people who are denying reality. So let's get right to it. Let's look at the release from an article from a place which I've never heard of. I know they're there, but the Times. So here we are. Let's go. So, transgender women to be banned from all female Olympic events. The byline here: IOC likely to announce a new policy early in new year after findings of a scientific review about the permanent physical advantages of being born male. So, right away, I have to give a little hold up there, right? The scientific advantages of being born male. So, first things first, though, I got to give the Times credit. They didn't say being assigned male at birth. So that shows a little bit of times are changing, right? That they didn't show the advantages of being assigned male at birth because that's the lingo that the leftists have been using lately, right? So, number one, credit there, being born a male. So the IOC, after a scientific study, which I'm going to laugh at this whole time, but let's get back over here and let's see what they have to say. The International Olympic Committee is set to announce a ban on transgender women in female competition early next year after a science based review of evidence about being born male. The science based review? The science based review is eyes. Just watch the competitions. Watch these separate competitions of males versus females. That's all you need. But let's keep going here. The IOC's guidance to Olympic sports has until now been that transgender women can compete with reduced testosterone levels, but leaves it up to individual sports to decide. That is now set to change under its new president, Kirsty Coventry, who has promised to protect the female category. So it's nice that we are actually seeing uh, you know, someone that actually cares a little about women in sports, about protecting women in sports, about not allowing them to be abused while men beat up on them. Because we've seen that before. And I know they say, well, it doesn't happen. And then video after video after video, especially at the high school and college level, of males that are pretending to be females beating up on girls in their sports. So let's keep it going here. The committee's medical and scientific director, Dr. Jane Thornton, last week presented to IOC members at a meeting in Lausanne the initial findings of a science based review into transgender athletes and competitors with differences of sexual development, DSD. There's a freaking category. Competing in female sport. DSD, that sounds like a drug. Like, if I'm sitting there and someone's telling me like DSD, I'm thinking that somebody's on DSD. But let's keep it rolling. A related article, skip over that. Sources said the presentation by Thornton, a Canadian former Olympic rower, stated that scientific evidence showed there were physical advantages to being born male that remained with athletes, including those who had taken treatment to reduce testosterone levels. Well, this is something that, us crazies on the right have been talking about for a long time. You can reduce testosterone, you can take all the drugs you want, you can get all the surgeries you want. But the biological difference between bone structure, muscle structure, ligaments, that internal stuff does not, nor can it truly change. It is there. It is the difference in physiology, in how we were created in order to work together in the end to procreate and continue our species. Let's keep it rolling here. Which I don't even know what this little side thing is. Remove that. Okay, cool. I don't know what that was. Sorry, guys. But let's keep it rolling. Quote, it was very scientific, factual, and unemotional presentation, which quite clearly laid out the evidence, one source said. Another IOC insider said there had been hugely positive feedback from IOC members about the presentation, which is funny because these are the same people who were probably into the super woke stuff. Were probably into apologizing for not having to take a stance and stuff like that. So it's always funny when these people absolutely backpedal. And this scientific based evidence gives them a reason to be like, well, now that we know, which is such a laughable thing, right? It's so laughable now that we know. Let's keep going here. It is understood the IOC is likely to announce its new policy early in the new year, possibly around the IOC session at the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics in early February. So this gives me pause a little, right? Because this isn't the announcement yet. This is the announcement to the announcement. So they're saying within the beginning of next year, which is about 2 months away. They said February, so 4 months away, right? A lot could change from now until then. They put this out, and I guarantee they put this out for feelers because they're going to want to see what the backlash is. And they're going to want to see what the Olympic different sports say about this. Because if the other Olympic sport, like bodies, like for track and boxing and rowing and crew and whatever all this stuff is, curling, that's in winter, but you know what I mean, if they all start to now make their policies within now to February or make verbal announcements saying, hey, we're going to make these changes within our sports before we even get to the Olympics as well, then they're going to fully go through with it, right? But if they start to see a major pushback from the small minority that is super loud all the time, we may see a change up here. So I'm not fully buying or convinced that the IOC is going to stick to this. Let's keep rolling with the article. Some work remains to be done to ensure the new policy is legally watertight. What's legally watertight? Men compete against men, women compete against women. There's nothing to be watertight about. Until now, the IOC's policy has been based on recommendations and guidance to sports rather than actually being part of its eligibility rules, which has always been a mistake. The ban is expected to come into force before the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. That would avoid any clash with US President Donald Trump, and Trump has so much effect on everything, who has signed an executive order that prevents transgender women from competing in female categories. Trump has claimed it would mean the US would deny any visas for transgender athletes trying to compete in LA, which again is the United States right to do. Because if you're trying to get a visa to come and do temporary work in the United States, what's your reason? Oh, I want to go compete in the Olympics. Well, we don't allow that anymore. So, boom, you're gone. So, the claim, it's not a claim, it's something that's justifiable and something that he can do as commander in chief and control of our border security. So, it's not necessarily a claim. And to avoid a clash with Donald Trump, this isn't avoiding a clash with anything. This is avoiding a clash with your female athletes getting their ass kicked and getting hurt. Like we saw, they're going to bring up the two boxers that hurt women physically and won gold medals in this last Summer Olympics. Let's keep it rolling. As we have a picture of Amani, whatever her name is there, his name, not her. Some sports, such as athletics and swimming, have already brought in a ban on athletes who have been through male puberty taking part in female competition, but others, including football, aka soccer, have not. And we have the controversy with the female soccer player speaking out and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to play the sport with a dude," and she's getting all sorts of rip for that. Coventry, a former Olympic swimmer from Zimbabwe who was elected this year, said in June, "We understand there will be differences depending on the sports. We should make the effort to place emphasis on the protection of the female category, and we should ensure that this is done in consensus with all the stakeholders," which I hate that word. There are no stakeholders. There are shareholders and things. Stakeholders are meant to be with all the people involved. We're all stakeholders. No, they're the only ones deciding, right? They use stakeholders to make it feel like we're all included. Nonsense. They're the ones deciding if men or women can compete against men or women or crossover. Okay. Stakeholders is such a bogus thing, which leftists try to use to throw in there to make it feel like you, the little person, have a decision. You don't. But we need to do that with a scientific approach and the inclusion of the international federations who have already done a lot of work in this area. AKA, we now have an excuse to go against the transgender push to allow men to beat up on women. We have now done scientific based evidence, AKA CYA, cover our asses, when we say, hey, dudes can't compete against women. Everyone else with eyes can see that there is a major advantage for men competing against women, but now we have the scientific excuse and evidence to now say, hey, you can't do it. And the call to the federations there saying, listen, all sports, go change your policy because this will make it easier on all of us if all the participating Summer Olympic sports do exactly what we're doing so that there's a united front, so the pushback will be moot against us. Let's keep rolling. The new policy is also likely to cover DSD, which is a ridiculous category. Those who were raised as girls from birth but have male chromosomes and male levels of testosterone. So, this is a different situation where rare individuals around the world are bound to, they're found to have both body parts, and the parents can then make a decision on how to raise them. So this is a different situation. This is more minuscule than anything. Cool, let's keep going. That follows the huge controversy at the boxing tournament at the Paris 2024 Olympics when two boxers, Imaine Khalif from Algeria and Taiwan's Lin Yu-ting, won gold medals despite having been disqualified from the previous year's World Championships for allegedly failing to meet gender eligibility criteria. So two men that should have never been boxing against women. We'll complete that for them. World Boxing, the new International Boxing Federation, which had been recognized by the IOC since Paris, has now introduced mandatory testing that has said Khalif will not be able to compete in the female category until she undergoes the test, which this is funny because for the sole reason the IOC moved away from the other boxing commission because the other boxing commission didn't let Khalif and Wu Tang, I think that's her name, compete in their World Boxing Championship. And because they were being so bigoted, we needed to move away from them. Oh, now though, World Boxing's doing it. And because we're getting on board, because we don't want to, now that wokeism is going away, we want to seem like, we are really doing the right thing for women. Now we're shifting, and the same basically rules that there is a test that you need to undergo. Now that's cool. Now we're going to use it. That's fine now. Let's keep rolling. Oh, is that it? Okay, that's it. So overall, what we see here is the IOC trying to do a CYA, a cover your ass. They are trying to make it look as if they're using science evidence, really serious, deep, serious stuff, in order to do what we all have known is true for a very long time, that men should not be competing against women. That shouldn't be happening. Boys of a certain age, when they start to mature, and even at a younger age, I've said before on the live show that I have two young girls. They compete in soccer. At the age of 6, 7, 8, you can start to see the distinguishing features of the boys that are more athletic and excel more against the girls that excel more and are more athletic. It's not as steep, but as they get older and older, that bridge starts to grow. And it's just physiology. It's just what happens between men and women. And the fact that the IOC now needs a big scientific presentation to do what we have all known to have been true for the 2,000 plus years of humans is a little ridiculous. Like I said, we have until February during the Winter Games to see if this announcement is going to happen. I'm hoping the IOC does it. I'm hoping the IOC strips Wu Tang and Khalif, Imaine, of their gold medals and gives it to the second place and lets fourth place take bronze, third place take silver, all that good stuff. And I hope they stay true to it. I hope the federations do the right thing and make sure that women compete against women and there are no men in their divisions. And maybe, just maybe, we have a little bit of sanity that comes back in sport. So thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it if you made it this far. Please make sure that you go, if you're whatever you're watching it from, please subscribe, like whatever it is that you want to do there. Make sure to tune into the live show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. One week we do interviews. The following week, I review videos that David sends me because he wants to torture me. And make sure that you're continuing to follow on, especially YouTube and Rumble, for videos like this and clips. Thank you so much. Have a good one, y'all.